Let's talk about the end of the world, because apparently a lot of people really wanted it to happen. From self-proclaimed prophets to paranoid doomsayers, history is packed with folks who didn't just fear the apocalypse, they sold it. And the best part? People bought it. Hook, line, and burn your possessions. The comet's coming. Sinker.
This is the bizarre, unsettling, and sometimes laughably bad history of doomsday prediction fails, and the masters of turning cosmic dread into a full-time gig. We've got prophetic chickens, apocalyptic math, and at least one guy who promised the rapture, then quietly rescheduled it. Oops.
So grab your tinfoil hats and survival snacks. We're diving into the dark, strange, and way too real stories of people who bet everything on the end and lost.
Welcome back to The Curious Past, where every week we dig up the strangest, creepiest, and most unbelievable stories from history you've probably never heard of. I'm your host, Shan.
And I'm Danny, and today we're dissecting 10 real-world doomsday prophecies that managed to convince normal folks they were living on borrowed time.
In 1499, a respected German astronomer named Johannes Stöffler looked up at the stars and saw the end of the world.
He predicted that on February 20th, 1524, a massive flood would engulf the Earth. Based on 20 planetary conjunctions, 16 of which occurred in the watery sign of Pisces.
The panic? Immediate. Over 100 pamphlets spread the prophecy like wildfire across Europe. Boat builders got rich, and one German noble, Count von Igelheim, built a massive 3-story ark on the banks of the Rhine.
When the big day came, it drizzled. That's it, just a light, annoying drizzle, and ironically, 1524 turned out to be a drought year.
But the crowd didn't take it well. As desperate people tried to board the ark, a full-on riot broke out. Hundreds were killed, and Count von Ingelheim, he was dragged off his ship and stoned to death by the angry mob.
Stöffler tried to save face. He recalculated the flood to happen in 1528. It didn't. His reputation sunk.
The irony? Years later, he predicted he'd be hurt by a falling object, so he stayed inside, safe and cautious.
Until a book fell off a shelf and smashed him in the head, seriously injuring him.
At 42, Joanna Southcott was an ordinary woman living in Devon, England. But by 1814, 100,000 people believed she was the chosen one, pregnant with the Messiah, and that the world was about to end.
It started in 1792 when Joanna joined the Wesleyan Church and claimed to have received divine gifts. She began writing prophecies, often in rhyme, and soon declared herself the woman of the apocalypse, straight from the book of Revelation.
In London, she found a wealthy believer, William Sharp, who helped her mass-produce what she called seals of the Lord. Holders of these seals guaranteed a spot among the 144,000 saved during the final judgment.
But it gets weirder. At 64, Joanna announced she was pregnant with no earthly father. She claimed her unborn son was Shiloh, the biblical Messiah from Genesis.
The problem? Joanna wasn't pregnant. She suffered from a medical condition that caused abdominal swelling. But her followers believed. Hard.
October 19th, 1814, the supposed birth of the Messiah, came and went. No baby, no apocalypse. Her followers claimed she was in a holy trance.
Joanna died months later, on December 26th. No Shiloh, no second coming, just death. Her doomsday prophecy had failed.
But her legacy didn't die. Joanna left behind a sealed wooden box of prophecies, only to be opened during a national crisis, and only in the presence of all 24 bishops of the Church of England.
The box became a legend. During World War I, people begged the bishops to open it. They didn't. In 1927, a psychic researcher, Harry Price, claimed to find it, but inside, just some unimportant papers, a lottery ticket, and a pistol.
Her followers weren't convinced. To this day, a group called the Panacea Society claims to have the real box hidden in a secret location, waiting for the bishops to finally listen.
Maybe we'll find out when the world ends again.
In 1910, the world was on the cusp of a new era, but fear was about to eclipse the excitement. A celestial visitor, Halley's Comet, was returning, and with it a wave of panic that would grip the globe.
French astronomer Camille Flammarion, a man known for his poetic descriptions of the cosmos, peered through his spectroscope and announced a chilling discovery. Cyanogen in the comet's tail, leading to widespread fear that the Earth would be poisoned. And with Earth set to pass through that tail, he predicted annihilation.
The news spread like wildfire, fueled by sensationalist reporting. The New York Times amplified Flammarion's fears, turning scientific curiosity into apocalyptic dread. People weren't just looking up in wonder, they were staring into the abyss.
Panic buying ensued. Comet pills promising immunity from cosmic poison flew off shelves. Gas masks, often crudely made, became the must-have accessory for doomsday preppers. Farmers, convinced the end was nigh, refused to plant crops. In a bizarre twist, a Los Angeles broker started selling comet insurance, a desperate attempt to profit from planetary terror.
May 19th, 1910. 6 hours. 6 hours Earth spent within the supposed death cloud. Imagine the sheer suffocating dread. Each breath potentially the last.
Of course, nothing happened, just a spectacular light show. The comet passed, leaving behind only the lingering scent of fear and a wave of collective embarrassment. But this wasn't just a failed prediction, it was a glimpse into the raw, primal terror that can grip humanity when the unknown looms.
The story of Halley's Comet is a chilling reminder that even in an age of science, the shadow of the unknown can still drive us to the brink. And perhaps it always will.
This man predicted the end of the world not once, not twice, but multiple times, and every time the world just kept spinning.
Harold Camping, an American Christian broadcaster, spent decades on the airwaves using biblical numerology to predict the exact date of the rapture. His first guess, September 6th, 1994.
Spoiler, no fire, no brimstone, just disappointment. But instead of backing down, Camping doubled down, revising the date to September 29th, then October 2nd.
Fast forward to 2005, Camping makes his boldest prophecy yet. May 21, 2011. That day, he said, the saved would ascend to heaven, and the rest of us, left behind to suffer 5 months of fire, plague, and daily mass death.
He spent over $100 million on a global media campaign. Followers sold homes, quit jobs, emptied savings, because the world was supposed to end.
May 21st came and went. Just another quiet Saturday, no rapture, no apocalyptic firestorms.
So, Camping pivoted again. He claimed it had happened just spiritually. The real end of the world, he now said, was coming on October 21st, 2011.
After that date passed with no cosmic fireworks, the media labeled him a false prophet. And Campaign, for the first time, he agreed.
In 2012, he admitted it was all a mistake. He called his predictions sinful and quoted Matthew chapter 24, verse 36 against himself. No one knows the day or the hour.
Harold Camping died 2 years later in 2013, never predicting again. But for a moment, his voice shaped a modern-day doomsday movement and reminded us how quickly belief can become obsession.
December 21st, 2012, the day the world was supposed to end, according to ancient prophecy. Or at least, that's what the internet said.
People stocked up on canned goods, built underground shelters, some even fled to remote villages, convinced the end was near.
At the center of this global panic, the ancient Maya and one of the most misunderstood calendars in human history.
The Maya were brilliant timekeepers. Their long count calendar tracked vast periods, thousands of years at a time.
December 21st, 2012, that wasn't an expiration date, it was just the end of a 5,126-year cycle. Think of it like your car's odometer rolling back to zero, not driving off a cliff. So, why did everyone freak out?
Because pop culture loves a good apocalypse. Books, documentaries, and the 2009 movie 2012 turned the calendar reset into a cosmic disaster countdown.
Then came the wild theories.
Nibiru, a rogue planet, would crash into Earth. The Earth, Sun, and center of the galaxy would align, triggering chaos. Some feared super flares would fry the grid, and a sudden flip of Earth's magnetic field, technically possible but geologically slow, like centuries slow.
While the world waited for doom, actual Maya communities were celebrating. For them, 2012 marked the start of a new cosmic cycle, a spiritual renewal, not destruction.
The Maya believed that the universe is periodically recreated, not destroyed, and 2012 was simply a reset. So, what really ended?
What ended in 2012 wasn't the world, it was a moment of mass misunderstanding, a cautionary tale of how ancient knowledge gets twisted in the age of the internet.
1666, just the number was enough to make people panic. In the Christian world, 3 sixes meant one thing: the mark of the beast. The apocalypse couldn't be far behind.
The fire started innocently enough in a bakery on Pudding Lane, London, on September 2nd, 1666. But a hot, dry summer and strong winds turned that spark into a firestorm.
By the time it was over, 4 days later, more than 13,000 buildings were gone, including 87 churches. But somehow, only around 10 people were recorded dead.
To many, this wasn't just a fire, it was a sign. The book of Revelation warned of fire, plague, and beasts. And this city had seen all three.
The year before, the Great Plague of 1665 had killed nearly 100,000 people, about 15% of London's population. Europe was gripped by famine, war, and fear of invasion. For those watching the sky for signs, this felt like the end.
One man, William Lilly, claimed to see it coming. An astrologer and alleged occultist, he published a prediction 18 years earlier warning of fire and plague in London. Authorities were so unsettled that they questioned him after the blaze.
But there was another name whispered in the ashes: Nostradamus.
The blood of the just will be lacking in London, burnt up in the fire of 66. The ancient lady will topple from her high place, many of the same sect will be killed.
To believers, it was clear the fire of 66 was a direct hit. The ancient lady, a symbol of London itself, the blood of the just, the innocents lost in flame.
Skeptics argue the quatrain is vague, classic Nostradamus. But during a year when everything seemed to be ending, people found meaning in the smoke.
London didn't fall. In fact, the fire may have saved it by cleansing the city of plague-infected slums and rats.
Out of devastation came rebirth, new laws, new buildings, and new questions about fate, prophecy, and panic.
In the quiet hills of upstate New York, a former soldier turned preacher studied ancient texts by candlelight and claimed to have cracked the divine code of the apocalypse.
His name was William Miller.
Miller, a Baptist lay preacher and farmer, zeroed in on a cryptic line from Daniel chapter 8 verse 14. unto 2,300 days, then shall the sanctuary be cleansed.
He believed this wasn't metaphor, it was math, and when he did the calculation, the end of the world was imminent.
From 1831 on, Miller preached far and wide, warning that Jesus Christ would return between March 21st, 1843 and March 21st, 1844.
And people listened.
His followers, known as Millerites, swelled to tens of thousands. Farmers, tradesmen, even entire families sold everything, abandoned homes, closed businesses, and climbed hillsides in white robes, ready for rapture.
March 18th, 1884 came and went. Nothing happened. But Miller wasn't ready to back down.
He revised the date. This time, it was October 22nd, 1844. That had to be it. The final, divinely calculated deadline.
And then the world woke up on October 23rd. Still intact, still spinning, still normal.
This moment would go down in history as the Great Disappointment.
Many Millerites were mocked, even attacked. Some lost their savings, some lost their faith entirely. And yet, something survived.
Out of the ashes of the failed prophecy rose a new theology. What if Christ had entered the heavenly sanctuary, not to return yet, but to begin the final atonement?
This idea gave birth to the Seventh-day Adventist Church, which still thrives today with over 21 million members worldwide.
So, was William Miller a con man, a misguided prophet, or just a man who truly believed he saw something no one else could?
Sometimes the end of the world isn't a bang. It's just a date on a calendar that never delivers.
Imagine waking up to news that a hidden planet, one NASA won't admit exists, is hurtling toward Earth. The government's covering it up. The elites are preparing to vanish, and you've got 6 months, tops.
Enter Nancy Leader. In 1995, from her home in Wisconsin, she launched Zeta Talk, a site claiming she was receiving messages from aliens in the Zeta Reticuli system.
Nancy said the Zetas implanted a device in her brain when she was a child. Their warning? A planet, Planet X, was coming. And when it passed Earth, it would flip the poles, shatter continents, and destroy civilization as we know it.
She called it Nibiru, said it was 4 times the size of Earth, that when it passed on May 27, 2003, our rotation would stop for 5.9 days, then Earth's crust would slide like loose skin over bone.
That didn't happen, but Leader had an explanation. She said she made up the date as a white lie to throw off the authorities, because if the elites knew the real date, they'd declare martial law and trap people in cities to die.
2012 brought a second wave of Nibiru panic. With the Mayan calendar ending and the world watching the skies, conspiracy theorists tied Planet X to the December 21st Doomsday hype.
But once more, Earth didn't crack in two, so the date was moved. Again.
In 2017, David Meade, a self-proclaimed Christian numerologist, announced that the real arrival was set for September 23rd.
He said the Bible and the pyramids contained hidden codes pointing to that date. A celestial alignment in Virgo, he claimed, matched the woman of the apocalypse in Revelation.
And that solar eclipse in August 2017, according to Meade, that was the final warning.
Meade said Nibiru would either strike Earth or trigger a cascade of horrors. Magnitude 9.8 quakes, pole shifts, nukes from North Korea and Russia. Oh, and Barack Obama would return for an unconstitutional third term.
When September 23rd came and went uneventfully, the date was revised to October 5th. Again, nothing happened.
If at first the world doesn't end, just move the date.
After his failed 2017 prophecies, Meade wasn't done. In an interview with YouTube pastor Paul Begley, he rolled out a new wave of predictions for 2018.
This time, North Korea would become a world-class superpower by March 2018. Nibiru, still inbound. The destruction of Earth, now rescheduled for spring.
Meade tied his apocalyptic timeline to several heavenly signs: the super blue blood moon eclipse in January 2018, the Winter Olympics, and Israel's 70th anniversary as an independent state. All he said were clues.
He even called certain United Nations officials crazy people for voting against the US recognition of Jerusalem as Israel's capital. That vote, he claimed, was connected to the signs in the heavens, and it came exactly 42 days before the blood moon eclipse.
Then came April 23, 2018. Meade called it the end of days convergence. He claimed a rare alignment of the Sun, Moon, Jupiter, and Virgo would signal the start of the rapture, triggered by Nibiru's final approach.
He said the church would vanish, the tribulation would begin, and Earth would spiral toward destruction.
But once again, Earth was still spinning, so Meade walked it back. On April 19th, just 4 days before the predicted Doomsday, he claimed that reports of a global destruction event were fake news.
Instead, he said the rapture would happen sometime between May and December 2018. Vague enough to keep hope alive, right?
With his 2018 predictions fizzling out, Meade became the first person since William Miller, yes, the 19th century preacher behind the Great Disappointment, to predict the world would end specifically on April 23rd.
And just like Miller, Meade joined the long list of self-made prophets whose clocks always ran out too soon. Yet people kept listening, because in uncertain times, the end of the world weirdly gives people hope.
So, why do these predictions keep coming back? Psychologists say doomsday thinking gives people a sense of control in chaotic times. If the world feels out of order, predicting the end can feel like finally understanding it.
NASA has debunked Nibiru for decades. There's no rogue planet on a crash course, no black star at the edge of the system, just a ghost story, orbiting human fear.
In 1806, in the quiet town of Leeds, Yorkshire, a hen became a prophet of the apocalypse.
The story begins with Mary Bateman, a fortune teller, scam artist, and self-styled prophetess, better known by her ominous nickname, the Yorkshire Witch.
Born Mary Harker in 1768, she had a reputation that stretched from theft and deception to claiming she could lift curses and communicate with spirits.
In 1806, Bateman, a devoted follower of the notorious Doomsday preacher Joanna Southcott, pulled off one of the strangest hoaxes in apocalyptic history.
She claimed that her hen had begun laying eggs inscribed with divine messages, specifically, Christ is coming.
And in a time when many believed the world was nearing its end, with religious revival movements and millenarian fears sweeping across England, the public believed her.
They paid a penny each to see the prophetic eggs. In today's money, that's a hefty price for poultry-based prophecy.
But how did she do it? Bateman used ink to write the messages on the eggs, then reinserted them into the hen's oviduct to be laid again. Painful? Almost certainly, but effective? Oh yes!
The hen kept producing prophecies until authorities removed it and the miracle stopped.
Eventually, the hoax was exposed, but this was just one chapter in Bateman's long and strange career.
She would go on to poison a woman during a curse removal ritual, and in 1809 she was convicted of murder and hanged. Her skin was allegedly used to bind books. Yes, really.
The Prophet Hen of Leeds wasn't just a strange sideshow. It was a reflection of the public's hunger for signs, for meaning, for any glimpse of what might lie ahead in uncertain times.
And sometimes that glimpse comes from a chicken coop.
In the late 1970s, televangelist Pat Robertson, a man with a direct line to God, or so he claimed, made a bold prediction.
He said the world would end, not metaphorically, literally, fall of 1982.
But 1982 came and went, no rapture, no judgment, not even a good old-fashioned fireball.
Pat Robertson, who passed away in 2023, was never just your average Sunday preacher. He was the founder of the Christian Broadcasting Network, a political influencer, and a magnet for controversy.
And while his 1982 Doomsday prophecy fizzled, that was just the beginning of his apocalyptic forecasting career.
In 2012, Robertson claimed God told him the next US president wouldn't be Barack Obama.
He said he was shown the winner in a vision and confidently predicted Mitt Romney would take the White House and serve 2 terms.
Whoops.
Then, in 2020, Robertson was back. This time, he predicted Donald Trump would win re-election and survive assassination attempts.
Well, depending on what you believe, Robertson just got the year wrong with this one.
He also said that the Supreme Court would overturn the election results.
Spoiler alert, they didn't.
And when that failed, Robertson briefly doubled down, then pivoted, urging Trump to concede and calling a 2024 comeback a mistake. Instead, he floated another name, Nikki Haley.
But here's the thing, these predictions, like the 1982 apocalypse, were never really about getting it right.
They were about influence, control, and selling certainty in uncertain times.
And while Robertson's predictions never came true, his audience never really left.
In the age of mass media prophecy, the end of the world is just a broadcast away.
Let's review. A hen lays prophetic eggs. A planet that never shows up keeps ghosting us.
Jesus was scheduled to return multiple times and kept missing his flights, and televangelists and numerologists continue to do very confident math with very wrong results.
Honestly, if the apocalypse were an employee, it would have been fired for not showing up to a single shift.
From 1666's fiery panic to 1800's egg-based evangelism to the countless guaranteed rapture dates of the 20th and 21st centuries, one thing's clear: humanity really wants the world to end on a schedule.
Preferably dramatic, and preferably soon.
But no matter how many prophecies are made, how many stars align, or how many YouTube pastors go viral, we're still here, the coffee's still hot, and the apocalypse is still taking its sweet time.
So, if you're into forgotten prophecies, weird history, and the strange stuff people believed before the internet ruined everything, hit that like button, subscribe, and tap the bell icon so you don't miss any deep dives into the ridiculous past.
Because if the world does end, we'll be here to tell you why it was supposed to happen 200 years ago. Until then, stay curious.